Scott Peterson was convicted of double murder almost 20 years ago in one of Court TV's biggest trials ever. His wife Lacey and her unborn son Connor, the victims. At trial, Peterson was described by prosecutors as a lying, cheating killer, and the jury agreed, including the juror known as Strawberry Shortcake, Rochelle Neese. But now, that juror is the one who may give Peterson a second chance and a new trial. Tonight, we are live from the same courthouse where Peterson was convicted as his lawyers argue for a new trial.
I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments and that breaking news in that heartbreaking case of Harmony Montgomery. We're going to get to that this hour, but I want to begin tonight talking about Scott Peterson and his three women. Three women, big impact on his life. Let's begin with his victim, Lacey. They were married. They should still be married. Or maybe not married, but she should still be alive. She was pregnant when she was murdered by Scott Peterson, and I was thinking back today about the timeline of all of that. When I was out in California covering his preliminary hearing, that's when my youngest son was born. And we're getting ready to send him off to college. Lacey's son, Connor, would probably already be in college. And think about all the things that she has missed because of what Scott did. And why did he do it? Because of wanting to live a different life that you can't live when you're a responsible husband and a responsible father. Wanted to spend time with his lover, Amber Frey. There it is. That's what he wanted. That's why he murdered Lacey and Connor. It was a double murder. Don't ever forget that. But Amber Frey turned out to be the most important witness in the case, because once she found out who Scott Peterson really was, she very quickly contacted law enforcement, recorded him, and some of the most powerful evidence and testimony in the case against Scott Peterson came from Amber Frey, his lover. Want to talk about another woman who may be his ticket to freedom, Strawberry Shortcake. She was one of the jurors in the case. And a bizarre type of relationship. I mean, she wrote letters to Scott Peterson afterwards, and, you know, people trying to figure all that out. But she is the focal point of why he's back in court now. Because he's saying that Rochelle Neese, juror number 7, Strawberry Shortcake, wasn't honest during jury selection and filling out the questionnaire and never should have been on that jury. And that's why Scott Peterson was back in court today, trying to get that new trial. That's what he wants. Court TV anchor Ted Rowlands is out in California and has a wrap-up of everything that happened today.
Shackled and carrying a folder, convicted double murderer Scott Peterson walked back into the same courtroom where he was convicted and sentenced to death 18 years ago for murdering his wife Lacey and unborn son Connor. Peterson is asking for a new trial, alleging that one of the jurors, Rochelle Neese, lied to get onto the jury. Peterson's lead appellate attorney Cliff Gardner argued that Neese not only lied to get on the jury, but was likely biased against Peterson.
Ms. Neese refused to speak with anyone from the defense. She refused to speak with anyone from the prosecution. She was subpoenaed to testify, as Your Honor knows. She exercised her privilege against self-incrimination, and she refused to testify unless she was given immunity from prosecution. This is as far from a cooperating witness, I think, as you can get.
Gardner also brought up the fact that Neese called Peterson's unborn son Little Man when she joined the deliberations after being an alternate.
When she was seated as a juror, Your Honor will recall she was an alternate.
Yes.
When she was seated as a juror, the court has the standard admonition. Your Honor talked about standard admonitions, and here's another one the court gave. When you're seated as a juror and you begin deliberations, don't take a firm position early. Don't announce it. Discuss the case. And she ignored that admonition, as I think we all agree. Now, that isn't misconduct. It's not a mandatory admonition. But what she did say before she even sat down at the table, when she was admitted to that jury room, according to Juror Allred, she said, let's get Mr. Peterson for what he did to little man. That, too, is consistent with someone who has a focus on or history of having been in fear for her unborn baby's life.
Judge Ann Christine Mazzullo must decide if Rochelle Nice committed juror misconduct, and if she did, was she biased against Peterson during his trial?
With Miss Nice, you got what you got.
Dave Harris, a member of the original team that prosecuted Scott Peterson, argued that Rochelle Nice didn't lie to get on the jury and certainly had no bias against Scott Peterson.
She did the best that she could. But being wrong does not necessarily make it false or make her a liar. It just might be that she's really bad at filling out forms.
Harris also argued that during voir dire, Nice was about to be dismissed, but as she was walking out of the courtroom, she was stopped by Peterson's defense team.
She's trying to leave. This is not, wait, I really want to be here because I'm going to secretly get this guy. You know, if that's the case, she's the world's worst spy because she's already been excused. But instead, she's brought back and she started to ask questions about being fair.
Scott Peterson's family sat behind him during the arguments. Lacey's family, including her mother, Sharon Rocha, sat in the jury box, out of the camera's view, but in direct line of sight of the man they still absolutely believe murdered Lacey and Connor.
We all know each other. We have a foundation. We've known each other for years. We were all at Scott and Lacey's wedding, and there's not, you know, in different events throughout their lives, and so there's not I don't feel a sense of animosity or hatred or you know, I have nothing but empathy and care for all of her family and friends.
Let's bring in Court TV anchor Ted Rowlands joining us live outside the courthouse, Redwood City, California. Ted, great to see you. What's the atmosphere out there right now? I remember being at that courthouse and, you know, for the verdict, I mean, it was like the locals were bringing the pitchforks. There was the eruption of glee that Scott Peterson, when it's announced over the PA that he had been convicted. What's it like now that he is on the verge of potentially getting a new trial?
Well, 18 years is a long time, Vinny, and the courtyard that you remember quite well behind me, there's nobody in there right now. I mean, this is a much different scene. The courtroom, we had 3 or 4 rows filled out, which is a lot for cases that we covered. It's just a hearing, but it wasn't packed like it was back then. So the interest is a lot lower, but the stakes are extremely high, as you've been talking about today. And you could feel that in the courtroom. Both sides so well versed in their argument, know this case inside and out. Dave Harris for the state of California, and of course Cliff Gardner for Scott Peterson. They were able to answer the many questions from Judge Mazzullo. We thought this was going to be a couple hours. It was all day because mainly of those questions that the judge had for both attorneys, as she has to decide this incredibly difficult and important decision.
All right, Ted, sometimes you can pick up something from the way a judge is asking questions. Sometimes they lean into one side a little bit more. Sometimes they're just playing devil's advocate to both sides. What did you take away from the way the judge was handling this? Because she is going to make this extremely important decision.
Absolutely. I would say she was playing devil's advocate. It was as if it was a Supreme Court. We watched those or listened to those on Court TV. You know, it was peppering both sides. Beginning when she was asking questions of the defense, you're thinking, oh boy, you know, she's definitely saying it on the state side. But then she treated Dave Harris with the same scrutiny as she did Cliff Gardner. So she's a human being. She's leaning one way or another, right? It has to be, but it didn't show. It didn't show today. And what clearly did show to me was that she was interested in those responses as she drafts. It's not just the opinion, it's that draft of the opinion that is so crucial. And you could see that there's a lot of work left to be done for Judge Mazzullo as she mulls this over?
He was wearing a mask, but looking at Scott Peterson, it looks like life off of death row is agreeing with him. I mean, he looked rested, he looked tanned. What else did you take away from Scott Peterson now inside that courtroom?
He's definitely lost a little bit of weight, but no, he's in good shape, and he looks, you know, if you didn't know that he'd spent the last 18 years on death row, you never would have guessed that's where he's been. Physically, mentally, who knows? He did seem to be engaged at some points in the defense. He brought in a folder full of papers. We've seen defendants do that before. But talking to his family, they say he is engaged. He is aware of the different arguments. What I was looking for today was that interaction between the Roaches and Scott Peterson, because they were in the jury box. Sharon had a clear view, as did Brett Rocha, of Scott Peterson, and they seemed to, and you know this, Vinny, this is about the classiest family you're ever going to meet. They seem to not take that bait. They had the opportunity. You know, one would think I'd be in there bad dogging them. No, they made an effort to not look at him and talk amongst themselves. And I was really impressed by the decorum in that courtroom. And from both sides, you know, the families, as Janie had said in that interview we did with her yesterday, they get it. They both get the situation.
Is there any sense out there, either from the families or the lawyers, about confidence in their side of all of this? Obviously, it's an uphill climb, we know, anytime for a criminal defendant to get a criminal conviction overturned. It's tough to do, very difficult to do. But did you get any idea of a sense of confidence? Are the Roaches and the prosecutor, are they nervous that we're going to have to do this again? Is Scott Peterson's side confident that, hey, this is it? I think we really have a chance here.
Oh, I think clearly the Petersons and Scott himself, as we've been told by the Petersons, and even the legal team. You know, afterwards I talked with them just a little bit as they were leaving. There's a little bit of spring in their step. It's still a long shot. I think they realize that, but they feel as though they have a solid argument. They have a legitimate shot. What the percentages are, who knows? It's still going to be a long shot, but they have a shot, and you could feel that. On the other side, there's some quiet confidence, which we've seen from that side from the very beginning in this case. But you have to wonder, there's got to be some dread too, because that is something they do not want to have to go through a new trial for Scott Peterson.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the Scott Peterson side. The most vocal advocate, sort of the spokesperson over there, has been Janie Peterson, his sister-in-law. Did she speak today?
She did. She addressed the media after. She was the only one to address the media after the proceedings today. And she basically articulated it was difficult for her. You know, she's gone to law school and has graduated. She just took the California bar. So she's been an integral part of this defense, working with the defense, sort of as a mediator for the family and the defense team. And, you know, she was asked, what do you think the judge is thinking? And, you know, she felt confident, but also couldn't read the tea leaves. Very difficult to see where this was going from the judge's perspective. But she was the only one we heard from. The defense team says that we're not saying a word until this decision has been made. And as per usual, the state keeping quiet as well. And the Rocha family.
Now, all right, let's get to Strawberry Shortcake, Rochelle Nice. Couple of interesting developments and things that we heard. One was that at the time of jury selection, she had been dismissed, was on her way out, but was brought back in, not by prosecutors, but by the defense. Is it true that on her questionnaire, on the question, can you put aside what you already know about the case, that she wrote no on that and still ended up on this jury?
Yeah, not only ended up on the jury, but wasn't questioned further during voir dire. No one questioned her. Of course, if the state was aware of it, they're looking through the questionnaire, they're not going to mention it. They're like, oh, boy. But the defense, they clearly wanted her on because one would argue what'd she look like? She's got the red hair, the tattoos, that definitely stands out. That person that would be the contrarian in the deliberation room, they had a feeling. She had a ticket out. Judge DeLucchi said, all right, you're excused for financial hardship. And they said, wait, are you sure? Hold on, don't leave yet. And sure enough, she ends up on there. But to your point, let's look at the that actual question on the questionnaire, because it's hard to believe that this could have actually happened. On the questionnaire, it reads, the jurors that sit on this case will be instructed that they must base their decision entirely on the evidence produced in court, not from any outside source or pre-existing opinion or attitudes. Can you do that despite what you've heard, read, or seen about this case? No, was her response. It's hard to fathom that slipped through. Here's how the judge broached the subject today in court.
Well, but isn't that pretty important to follow up? I mean, the whole reason for these questionnaires is for the attorneys to look at answers carefully and follow up and say, you know, I noticed you've given all these answers right now, but I noticed on 97A, you checked no. Ms. Nice, or juror number 7 at the time.
Yes.
Was that a mistake? Can you explain? Isn't that what attorneys are supposed to do?
Yeah, he said absolutely, and acknowledged it was a mistake, and then later on, when questioned again, said that he believed that the defense just assumed that she made a mistake and meant to check yes. The bottom line is, how does this cut? There's the obvious way it cuts, and that is you had your chance and she slipped through because of your incompetence. The other one is, does this give the judge another bit of insight, another piece of the puzzle of her mind space? And if indeed she did say no, then that means she did come in with some bias. So, you know, something else to wrestle with.
Yeah, I look at that answer and I'm like, the judge on his own, based on that answer,
Totally
would toss the juror, but didn't. Fascinating. I mean, I never knew that little piece of juror number 7, strawberry shortcake, Rochelle Nice's application for the jury or jury questionnaire. All right, Ted, can you stay? It's a long day, long week for Ted Rollins, folks. But we want him to stay just one more segment.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's going to stay. Excellent.
Of course.
See, I convinced him. All right, when we come back, though, Ted's going to be joined by the attorney for the key witness in the case, Amber Fry's attorney, Gloria Allred, will join us live. Don't go anywhere. Plus, coming up next hour.
In Miami, Florida, social media star Courtney Clenny, also known as Courtney Taylor, known for her risque photos and pay-for videos, under arrest and charged with murder. The victim, her boyfriend. The crime scene, an ultra-luxurious Miami condo. Tonight, we have the latest.
At this time, all the necessary steps are being taken as we speak for her return to Miami to be held accountable for this murder.
4800.
Here's the scenario Mr. Garagos finds himself in. He has this jury questionnaire that she's filled out. He may like the answers. I think Mr. Harris said one of the reasons...
Slow down.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. I think one of the reasons Mr. Dave Harris suggested that Mr. Garagos wanted Ms. Nice on the jury was because of her red hair. I think that was a quote he said this morning. Maybe. But the point is, when he made that decision to stop her and say, Judge, you didn't even ask her if she's willing to serve, despite not being paid. He had the questionnaire with the false answers in front of him. That isn't someone who wants this juror necessarily on the jury had he known everything he now knows. In fact, we have an unrebutted declaration from Mr. Garagos that had he known about this TRO, he would never have permitted this juror.
Well,
and that's,
okay, but so I agree, but as the court pointed out, he also had before him in a jury questionnaire 97A. She checked she couldn't be fair, and with the pretrial publicity, he never even followed up. So, yeah, he didn't have this information that he said would form the basis for a challenge now. after Mr. Peterson is found guilty, but at the time when he had information indicating some bias, your position is that was a mistake.
My position is that that any trial lawyer would look at that and say, that's a mistake. She just checked the wrong box.
I'm not buying that. Not buying it one bit, that you would just assume someone saying they can't be impartial in a death penalty case is just making a mistake and you shouldn't even ask them about it. Come on. Come on. What do you want? Are you going to sell me a bridge in Brooklyn next? No way am I buying that. For whatever reason, Scott Peterson, Mark Geragos, his team wanted strawberry shortcake, and they got the whole shortcake. And he ended up on death row. Now they're trying to get a new trial, so now you got to figure things out. All right, still with us from outside the courthouse, Court TV, anchor Ted Rowlands. And joining me now in New York City, the attorney who represented Scott Peterson's girlfriend. I don't like calling her Scott Peterson's girlfriend. I want to call her just Amber Fry.
Don't call her a mistress.
No, not mistress. She's just Amber Fry. And Gloria Allred is with us, who not only is the famed attorney, Gloria Allred, but she's also my former anchor-in-law, okay, when I was at Court TV the first time. And I have to ask you before we start anything, got to get this out of the way, how are you doing, Gloria? But more importantly, how are those amazing grandchildren doing?
Oh, thank you so much, Vinny. It's a pleasure to be with you again. I'm doing great, thank you. My granddaughter has also become an attorney, and my grandson is about to start his last year in law school at the University of Pennsylvania. So then I'm finished with sending everybody to law school. We're done. Three of us, plus me as the fourth, all going to be lawyers.
That is fantastic and great news. I knew it when they were this big that, you know, the sky's the limit for those children. All right, now,
Thank you.
Rochelle Nice, Gloria Allred, what do you remember about strawberry shortcake, and what are your thoughts about all this noise being made by the defense trying to get a new trial because of this alleged lie that she made in her jury questionnaire about TRO, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, here's my take on all of this, Vinny. For one thing, I don't understand why the defense didn't have a jury consultant when there's a murder trial to at least have someone else, also look at the way the juror questionnaires were filled out and, express their opinion as well. I mean, this is not a petty theft case. This was a really serious case. But apparently they decided not to do that, whether that was budgetary or whether they just thought that they could pick the jury without any other advice. I don't know. The other thing is about that question that the judge was just asking about, I guess 97?
97A.
97A. Yeah, there you go. I mean, if the defense is saying that's a mistake, well, is their position that her not saying that she sought a TRO or that she was a victim or witness to a crime, was that a mistake too? How did they, or didn't they do any background check of their own on public records? I mean, it's really hard to understand the defense position. Are they saying she lied about some questions or the answers that she gave, but she made a mistake about another, or she made a mistake about everything? Or, it's like, aren't they going to take any responsibility here?
Ted, through the years, have they ever, anyone on the defense team, whether it's Mark Geragos or anyone else, talked about why they wanted her? Because it's clear that they wanted her. It's not like she just fell into the jury. I mean, she was on her way out the door, and they're like, no, come back.
No, and they haven't articulated it, but I do know from sources closer to the defense team during the process, they thought they had her. And that was one, when you look at the jury, do we have Dr. Lawyer? I don't know. Oh, I think we have strawberry shortcake, though. There was a confidence. They thought there was a bond there because of just her mannerisms in court, and they were obviously dead wrong. As far as 97, the question, yeah, it was a total mistake, right, from the defense standpoint when you're looking at the way that this slipped through. But what does it have to do with, really, the question at hand? And that is the juror number 7, strawberry shortcake, Rochelle Nice. I think it actually gives a little bit of insight into possibly bias. If you look at just if she says, no, I can't put that behind me, okay, well then she was struggling when she filled that out to put it behind her and judge fairly. So I don't know, what does the judge take in? Yes, it's easy to say the defense and Mark and Pat missed an obvious one, but what does it say about Juror 7? That's really the question.
Yeah, but to me, Ted, I read it the other way.
I venture, yeah.
I'm reading it the other way, Gloria.
I guess.
I'm reading it that they really, really, really wanted her on the jury, and they got her.
I think they did really want her on the
so
jury, and I'll speculate as to why. My speculation, and that's all it is, because I've never spoken to Mark about this, and I'm sure you'd never tell me anyway, if I did, would be that she looks like a strong individualist. You know, she's not like conforming with the hair like everybody else and, you know, the clothes like everybody else. She's got a strong personality. And they only needed one juror to say not guilty, even if everybody else said guilty. So they perhaps might have thought that she would be the one who wouldn't conform with everybody else, go with the flow. She would go with whatever she thought, and maybe she wouldn't want to do what everybody else wanted. She wanted to just have her own opinion, even if it would be completely different from the remainder of the jury.
All right. Gloria Allred, great to see you. Ted Rowland's working double, triple overtime for us tonight. We thank you as well. We'll speak again. We'll see when the judge makes her decision. When we come back, we're going to hear from the prosecution side, and we're going to bring in a couple of attorneys. I think they were battling here last night, so we brought them back tonight for a rematch. Beth Karras, Michael Cardoza, plus me, when we come back.
With Nature's Bounty.
She didn't recall the court coming back when she testified at the hearing as depicted in the minute order that was being shown to her. So the fact that a significant event, or what should have been a significant event of her going to court and having this hearing, she doesn't remember, when she's asked about this all these years later, it just again shows the point that the people have been making. With Ms. Nice, you got what you got. She's a very straightforward, sincere witness. She's telling you, very much telling you what's on her mind and what she thinks about things. That she called it the way she thought.
Scott Peterson back in court today trying to get a new trial. His attorney making arguments. That was the prosecutor trying to say, listen, he was convicted. He's a double murderer. He got off death row. Let's just keep him behind bars. Okay, so at issue, really, it's all about Rochelle Nice, juror number 7, a.k.a. Strawberry Shortcake, and whether or not she was fair and impartial, whether or not she revealed everything that she needed to reveal ahead of time, and whether or not the defense and the defendant was prejudiced by all of this. So much so that he deserves a brand new trial all these years later. Joining us now in Walnut Creek, California, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Michael Cardoza is with us. And in New York City, legal analyst, consultant, producer for anonymous content, former Court TV superstar, and the first person I ever spoke to when I got the call from New York that Court TV wanted me, and she took me under her wing and made it much easier for me. Beth Karras is with us. Great to see everyone. Michael, sorry, I can't give as flowing, as glowing an introduction as I have to for Beth because I owe her so much.
I'm used to it.
Okay.
I'm used to it as a defense attorney. I'm used to taking the beating.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
So I'll begin with you though, Michael. We'll start with Michael
Sure.
tonight, Beth. So Michael, really, the defense absolutely wanted Rochelle Nice on this jury, and the questionnaire, 97A, she answered, I can't put aside all the pretrial publicity. Despite that, they still wanted her. She was excused. She was on her way out of the courtroom, and the defense brought her back. So why on earth should the defense get a new trial now, just because they lost?
I'll tell you what, this is going to be really unusual. I'm going to agree with you, Beth, and Gloria. Number one, I don't like that the defense is now saying, oh, when she answered question 97, we really thought she meant yes. How do you get there? She clearly said no, and they should have asked her about that and say, what do you mean you can't put aside pretrial publicity? Let's talk about that. And that's why I say I agree with you, Vinny, that they looked at her and it was looking at the cover of the book and saying, we want her. Now that gets me to Gloria. Gloria said, why didn't they have a jury consultant? And I agree with that. Why didn't they? My answer to that is I've tried well over 45 murder trials, and I know there are a lot of attorneys that say, I know more than jury trial consultants. Because of all my experience, I can ferret out the good and the bad. I find that to be a bunch of baloney. It's true to some point, but in a case of this magnitude, I always thought they should have had a jury consultant. After all, they do it for a living, and they dig into the backgrounds of the juror. They would have found a lot about Rochelle Nice, a tremendous amount about that. So you look at that, but notwithstanding, now I'm going to go to Ted, and I'm going to say I even agree with Ted when he said, so what? It doesn't make any difference. That's not the question here. Should she have been left on the jury? Because had she been straightforward, despite the defense thinking, we're going to keep her because of her red hair, well, now that we know that she's been in domestic violence issues, that she's lied about, because remember, she said when she filled out some of the documents for court, she said, I lied about that. Well, had that come to the front and had the defense known about that, maybe they would have readjusted, oh, she's got red hair, let's keep her. So tonight, I'm agreeing with a lot of people.
Beth, can you believe what we just heard?
No.
Wow. Well, let me say that it's my understanding that the judge has to find there was misconduct, right? And misconduct means that she intended to misrepresent herself on the questionnaire, perhaps so she could get on the jury. And it seemed to me from the questions the judge was asking, especially of the defense, she seemed a little more tough on Cliff Gardner, who's a great attorney, than on the prosecution, but she did question both. It seems like, she didn't think that it was intentional, right? It was not an intentional misstatement. She just didn't understand the terms. You got to stand in her shoes with her life experiences. So, I came away thinking the judge is probably leaning toward not finding misconduct, which is the first step in the analysis. Because if she finds it was misconduct, then there's, I guess, a presumption of bias, right? And then the state has to rebut it. And that's the whole, they went through all of that analysis today. But the first step is, was there misconduct? I think Dave Harris was right when he said that she was, what did he say? She was a straightforward, sincere witness. Called it like it was, even on question 97. No, I can't put it aside.
So, as Ted said, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ben.
No, go ahead, Michael.
Okay, so Beth, in California, it doesn't have to be purposeful. You don't have to have an intent. It can be sheer negligence. And the cases here say it doesn't matter whether you intended to tell an untruth, AKA lie, or not. The fact is you did it. So that's what the court can look at.
Then what's the analysis for the judge? Then why does the judge have to decide if it was intentional or not? It's like a strict liability? I don't read it. Well, I haven't read the statute, but the questioning didn't make me feel that that's where the judge was going. The judge was looking at trying to stand in her shoes.
Well, certainly today, that's what Cliff Gardner argued to the court. It can be unintentional. The fact is, she didn't tell the truth. And I have a very difficult time listening to her because of the way she acted after the trial. And the big thing for me was when she walks into that jury room, now I know there's no law that says you can't do it, but jurors are admonished, do not, when you get into that jury room from the get-go, state your opinion, because then if you do that, you're going to get stubborn. You're not going to want to give in. You're not going to listen to the other jurors. But what does she do? She walks in and she says, let's get him for the little man. Now that shows bias, and the way she filled out the questionnaire saying, no, I wasn't in a lawsuit? Come on. She's at least intelligent to a certain way. Okay, I'll hang. Go ahead.
Okay, hang on one second. If she says, let's get him because of the little man, once they have heard all the evidence, she walks in the deliberation room, it's their case, who cares? You know, the day after she got bounced, the jurors almost mutinied because the foreman, who was a JDMD, was not letting them take a vote and see what their opinions were. He was plodding through the evidence. It was taking too long. They wanted to take the temperature of everybody and see where they stood. So what if she said, let's get him
fair enough.
because of the little man?
We have 10 seconds.
Judge DeLuca kicks that guy because the doctor lawyer, as we called him back then, Beth, because he was going meticulously through the evidence, and the jury didn't like that. I thought Judge DeLuca made some mistakes. They were way too fast to kick jurors off in this case.
Well, we had two of them that got bounced during. It was a wild deliberation.
It was like bang bang.
All right, we're going to have you guys back because at some point the judge will make her decision, and I want to get your reactions to that. Michael Cardoza, great to see you. Beth Karras, what can I say? What can I say, Beth? Thank you.